Welcome back to the Noble Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Landry Coleman. Today on the show, I'm joined by Chris Beach. Chris is a father, a husband, and he's the CEO of the Fatherhood Foundation of Virginia. On today's episode, we'll discuss the biggest issues that are facing men today and how the Fatherhood Foundation is stepping up to help. My conversation with Chris is right after this. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining the Noble Pursuit podcast today. I was telling you a little bit beforehand that when I start off the podcast, I like to ask my guests to give, their own bio. So if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Of course. Chris Beach, live here in Richmond, Virginia, in the capital of the Commonwealth. And I am a dad, husband, and I happen to work in a place that allows me to live my life through my work. So I've been married happily to my wife going on 24 years. It'll be our 24th year of marriage right now. And she's still my best friend, and love her to death, and can't do life without her. And then we're raising 4 boys, ages 21, 20, 18, and 15. So we're raising them to be men. So that's another passion why I love what I do, love to do what I do. And then, so a little bit about me. I started in education as a teacher and saw the need firsthand that, there's a lot of kids out there that just didn't have dads in their lives. And that was, there was the kids that had the most troubles in school. And just not coincidental. It's not coincidental. It's real. Then I went from education, realized when I got into administration, it wasn't about the kids anymore. It's about test scores, budgets, schedules, everything but the kids. So I jumped into the nonprofit world and worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters and saw 300 boys on the waiting list and no men to go with them because dads weren't around. Then I went and worked in one of the highest impoverished areas in the community in Richmond, where there are 1,100 housing units and 7% had dads living in them. And so I saw that firsthand, and then it led me to this organization, which is the Fatherhood Foundation of Virginia. And what I do now is basically help to educate men to allow them to be the strongest husband, co-parent, and father they can possibly be. So why is this passionate for me? My mom and dad were divorced, very ugly divorce. I had to get between mom and dad from punching each other at times. My father was incarcerated when I was younger, so I had to live with that. And once he was out and released, then I had to go through the whole divorce thing. And so, been there, done that. And actually, the very first jail I ever went into to teach men was the jail my dad was in. So it's kind of come full circle, and now I get to help men be the best version of themselves they can be. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
What impact do you think your own father's story had on your life and the mission that you are a part of now?
Just not to sound cliche, but showed me what not to do.
Yeah.
But then also it gives you a drive of there's got to be better. There's a lot of great dads out in our community, but I think that the biggest thing that I was having this conversation with a man this morning, and I said, we have all these men who are doing great for their families, who are putting in the time for, working hard, providing for their families, providing financial needs, food, everything, shelter, everything they need. But there hasn't been a call for men to pay it forward and yes, it's extra work, but what are you doing that's going to leave a legacy? And I think that's the biggest thing right now that we're facing is we have a lot of people who are working hard to provide for their families, but what are you going to leave to the next generation? And what is your legacy going to be? So I think that's right now for me, that's the hardest thing is finding those men that realize that, hey, like you're here with me, and what you do is the same thing. You want to help men be the strongest version of themselves they can be. And that's hard sometimes, because they're not out there looking for help, but then trying to get people to jump on with you to say, okay, can we get more people like us to reach more people, because that's how we're going to truly make systemic change.
In your work that you do, what do you think is the biggest obstacle that you see facing men today?
The reality is majority of people in lower economic communities live in a house without a dad. even 1 out of 4 children in the United States live in a house without a dad. So how do we change that? How do we change the mentality of, mom and dad working together, regardless if we were together or not? How do change that mentality that, mom's not needed or dad's not needed? How do we get back to going against each other instead of that working together for the betterment of the children? And I think that's the biggest societal issue we're facing right now, from a personal standpoint, from a court standpoint, from a government standpoint. And it's the elephant in the room that we all know is an issue, but people don't want to talk about it. And then when they do talk about it, everything from bigotry to sexism to racism, everything comes out in that. But data's data. We need dads in the lives of their children, regardless of where it is. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're facing right now.
In your own life, when you had your first child, um, did you find it a struggle, like having grown up with your dad, facing the issues that he was facing, and then trying to figure out how to be a father on your own?
No, because I had that drive. I wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to be a dad, and I think it's also a lot easier when you get to do it with your best friend. I think that's what makes life a lot easier, is having that trusted person you can rely on and be there with you through the ups and the downs. Um, and it's a roller coaster. You're going to have really highs, you're going to have lows, you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. But I love the fact that they said, um, I was listening to this podcast, and this gentleman said, what has made you so successful in your marriage? He says, it's loving the woman, not loving the woman I married. It's loving the woman she is now. And I thought that was very impactful, because we change in life. I'm not the guy I was 23 years ago. She's not the woman she was 23 years ago. Things have changed, but you change to love the woman that you're with at that time, and just fall more in love with her. So I think for me, being a dad was never. Of course, you have your challenges. You're tired. It's tough. You sacrifice for your children, but reality is, I wish I could get it back sometimes, because it's gone by so fast.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the Fatherhood Foundation of Virginia now.
Of course.
Can you talk a little bit about the resources that you guys have available and how you're helping men in Virginia?
Well, we try. We want to be the trusted resource across the state. We know that we can't be everywhere. There are great organizations across the state that are doing stuff for fathers, but we want to be a resource. So, for instance, there's an organization of social service organizations up in Northern Virginia that come together to provide fatherhood resources. And they came to us and said, "Hey, we would love to partner with y'all to do this." I'm like, "Great. What can we do to help y'all so you can do what you do up there better?" And they're like, "Really? So what do you get out of it?" I said, "We get out of it that we're helping men. It doesn't matter. We want to be a resource. We don't need to be the people doing the work. We want to be a resource for that." So they were putting on an event called the Good Father Project, where they were going to have these essays done in schools, where the children wrote about why their dad is the best. They picked 10 of them, and they wanted to give them certificates, give them a gift certificate, and recognize them for that. Well, their organization didn't have the funds to do that. So I said, well, let us provide the gift cards. Let us provide the certificates. Let us provide goodie bags to give to the dads. And they were like, wow, you do that? I'm like, this is all for fathers. This is not a total sum game. We can't be everywhere across the state. So we partner with these great organizations, and we are going to be a resource for those organizations. And the classes that we can do, we're going to do, but the places we can't be, we want to provide those resources for. So the classes we do are New Dad 101, which is the class for dads, by dads before the baby's born. We are working our way into every hospital. We're almost there. And it's a class that is for dads, by dads, where dads can ask all those questions before the baby is born that they're afraid to ask when mom is next to them, because we don't want to sound stupid. We start all of our classes with the 3 guiding principles. There's no such thing as a perfect dad. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And the most important relationship you show your children is the one with their mom. So those are the top 3 principles. We guide everything. And it's just a safe space for dads to talk and just ask those questions that they might think are stupid. They're not stupid. We have questions we need to be answered. So when you put dads in a room with other dads, they start asking questions that they're not going to ask when mom's next to them. So we have that class. We go into rehab centers and do our 24/7 dad classes, which is a national fatherhood initiative class that is a 12-week curriculum where we teach dads how to be stronger fathers. And we have that same kind of curriculum, but it's for incarcerated fathers through our Inside Out Dad program. So we go into jails across the state of Virginia and teach the Inside Out Dad program. We do marriage and relationship coaching at reduced cost. So because we know if the relationship is strong between mom and dad, then they can, it's better for their children. We have what's called the Daddy Wagon, the Daddy Diaper Van that goes into communities across the state, opens up its doors and gives diapers out to dads because that might be the only time the dad gets to see their child if they get a free pack of diapers. We do events all across the state where we're doing one down in Portsmouth where we're going to give free admission to the Children's Museum. And if dad brings their children, they also get a backpack for school. So we're doing that as well. We do something called Father Christmas, where we get dads who are nominated from across the state. And we choose 25 dads in Southwest Virginia, 25 dads in Hampton Roads, and 25 dads here in Central Virginia. And we give them $500 cash and take care of all the presents for them because we know that dads are struggling and some dads don't qualify for those extra subsidies that you might not qualify for the angel tree, or he might not qualify for this. These are dads who are working hard to make ends meet, and they still come up short around the holidays. So we do all of these programs in hopes that we're highlighting dads and across the community, and other dads see that, oh, being a dad is cool. Being a dad is the right thing to do. And the more dads that we can recognize for doing the right things, hopefully they'll go on and tell somebody else. And that's what's been happening. And we've seen this huge growth over the past 4 years.
So with all those different things that you guys have going on, is there one specific story that sticks out in your mind of like we've seen life change because of the things that these guys have gone through while working with us? You don't have to names or
Oh, wow.
anything.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah,
Oh,
it could
well,
be multiple, but
yeah,
if
I'll
there's
do
one specifically.
two quick ones.
Okay.
The ones that really hit me hard are like one of our success stories is we have a dad who he was in a rehab program here in Richmond. He's 20, went through our 24/7 dad program and just wanted to reconnect with his son. And by the end of the class, he had reconnected with his son. And then fast forward another year, he graduated the program at the rehab center and became our instructor here at the Fatherhood Foundation, teaching those dads in the rehab center to be better, stronger dads. And then he got a full-time job at the rehab center where he was and became a peer recovery specialist. And fast forward he's now teaching the classes in the jails for us as well. Fast forward another year, and he now is in regular talks with the mom of his child. That they're working together. He's going to actually visit his child. His child's been up here, but he's going to visit his child for extended period down there where his child's living for the first time ever because he has the resources to do so. And now he is fully gainfully employed with a county where he is doing what he's been trained to do, and he uses these resources that we've given him for that. And now he said, Chris, I have full employee benefits. I have a pension. I have all of that, man. It's just, in the course of the 4 years since I've taken this class, I really got back on track and it's given him a mission in life. So purpose. So that's one of our success stories. But I think the one that, Father Christmas is the event that just gets me every year. And it was during COVID, and there was this dad who lost his job because of COVID, got down, he got COVID, been in the hospital. His daughter had throat cancer, 3 years old, and we were doing a Father Christmas drive-through because we couldn't, contact anybody, get out of the cars and everything. So saw this little girl, and I was dressed as Santa, and little girl got so excited, started kicking. She couldn't talk. She had a trach in. And the uh, the fact that she got to see Santa was awesome. We reached across the seat and gave Dad the $500 because he was very weak from the COVID and still battling back from that, and gave him $500 for being a great dad. And he kind of just sat up and his chest just kind of perked up and he started crying. And it was that time where I'm just like, sometimes dads just need to be recognized, to be seen. It's not about the cash, it's about being seen. We provide put all the presents in the back of the car for the kids and everything. So we kind of took that pressure off of Christmas for them. Got an email from the mom saying that you don't know how much it meant to him to be recognized as a dad. Um, our little girl had the best Christmas she's ever had. Unfortunately, she lost her battle with cancer and passed away this month. And she's like, "Thank you for giving us a Christmas we'll never forget. You will be her last Santa, but it will be the most memorable Christmas we've ever had." And I just sat there and cried
That's
reading
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's the kind of stuff that we're doing. We're making an impact. A lot of people don't get to see these stories that we, as nonprofit leaders, they hear the stories. They don't get to see them because they're in personal moments. But when I get to tell those are stories that really stick with me.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's cool about that is it doesn't only have an impact on their lives, but it has an impact on your life too. Um, so through the work that you've done, how do you think that it's made you personally a better dad?
Um, I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I learn more from the dads that I teach than they do from me, hands down. I think that's what's, you know, I'm nowhere near. I'm a dad. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. So bottom line, how has it made me a better dad? It's tough to say, but the fact that my boys see me helping other men to be better men, and then having my boys and my wife there at every event that we do, supporting me. Um, my hope is that when they see that we're putting in the time, putting in the effort, and helping the dads, when they're at the Father Christmas events, when they're at the events and they get to hear the testimony that these men are making of what we've made a difference in. My hope is that my boys will take that and continue that on, building that legacy. Um, you know, uh, that's what we that's what we truly need, men showing other men that, hey, it's not about the dollar. God has given us all of this, and it's his. So how do we use what he has given us to his glory to pass it on to the next generations? That's where I truly hope where being a father and running this foundation will lead me.
Mm. Is there anything specific that when you're thinking about the future and the Fatherhood Foundation that you're like, this is where we're headed and this is the types of things that we want to be doing?
Yeah, I want a fatherhood foundation in every state. That's kind of 10-year plan, is doing everything we can to make this successful. We know we do not have all the gold standard programs. We feel that our New Dad 101 program is our program that we kind of can wrap around. But then National Fatherhood Initiative has 24/7 Dad and Inside Out Dad. That's the gold standard. Let's not try to change that. Let's use what's the best programs are and put it all together in one organization, to where when we go to another state and become the Fatherhood Foundation of whatever it may be, Maryland, North Carolina, that we're not handing them a prepackaged program. We're giving them a bunch of programs that they can make their own. We've already done the legwork for it. So 10 years from now, I can see a fatherhood foundation in other states that's using the best gold standard curriculum, everything the best from around the United States, put into one package and then handed down to another one, so they can make it their own programs, because each state is different. We don't want to say that, hey, here's a one size fits all. Fatherhood is not a one size fits all thing. So that's where I see us in a couple of years.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about beforehand about how Virginia is now kind of focusing on fatherhood. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the commission on boys and men and what that looks like and how you helped play a role in all of that.
Of course, no. Helped play a small role. We, under the previous administration, one of the things I promoted was that we need a commission on boys and men. We need to really start talking about this, and um, we started talking about it. And the Governor Youngkin, saw the need, and they asked me straight up. They said, "Chris, if there was one thing that you could get that we could do as a government that would help you, what would it be?" I said, "Write a fatherhood report for the state of Virginia." And they did. They put put money aside, and Virginia State, I mean, not Virginia State, Hampton University, University of Virginia, Richard Reeves, who wrote the Book of Boys and Men, they all came together and wrote a fatherhood report and got the most up-to-date data for fatherlessness and fatherhood and how the effects of fatherhood, what the effects fatherhood has on the state of Virginia, that we could use to say, hey, this is why we're doing this. We're not just doing this to make ourselves feel good about dads. We're doing this because men and boys need help. And this past session, the very first legislatively passed Commission on Boys and Men was passed by the General Assembly and signed into a law by the governor, which is very exciting. And they're having their first summit coming up in September, where we're going to talk about boys and men issues that are going on, like the fact that boys are less likely to go to college than girls now. The gap's even bigger than it was before Title IX was passed. The fact that boys and men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. These are issues that, need to be discussed, but we're not having these discussions. We finally are. So what are the best practices from across the United States that we can use to really highlight the need that boys and men have right now? Because this is not a total sum game. It is not, we need moms. We need strong women. We've been doing a lot of that, pushing women in programs that are jobs that are traditionally men. Awesome. We need that. But we also need programs that continue to push boys and men into these programs as well, because if you stop pushing them, they're not going to do it anymore. It's not we need women, but we also need men. We need women's programs and we need men's programs. It's not a total sum game. So if we can get to the point where we're doing both, then we're truly making an impact.
When you got your hands on that report, and I'll link it in the description of this podcast, but when you got your hands on it, was there anything in there that truly shocked you that you weren't expecting?
No, because I'm in it on a daily basis. But, for me, it was just like, yeah, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing this. But the reality is it just kind of put everything that what Fatherhood Foundation is doing, it put it in. I said, okay, this is why we're doing this. Here it is. If you want to see the data to back us up while we're doing this, here it is. But I definitely, it's a very well done, and like I said, it's the most up to date data we have. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, there really is some issues with fatherlessness in the state of Virginia. So what can we do to help with that? So didn't surprise me, but I think a lot of people who are not in this space on a day-to-day basis, it will surprise them.
So one question I like to ask everybody that I interview, especially guys who are really focused on fatherhood like the two of us are, when you get to the end of your life and you're on your deathbed or maybe even gone ahead and passed on, what do you hope your kids think about you first? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
That I love God, Jesus, number one, that he was a godly man. That's number one. And that should be number one, point blank. Past that, way past down the line, is did I leave a legacy of paying it forward? Did I give everything I could, not just to my family, but did I give everything I could back to the community and make a lasting impact? Will what I've planted continue? And everybody wants legacy. I like, on a grander scale, my legacy is doing his work, and will it continue to affect the kingdom? That's what I want my boys to remember about me, and my wife to remember about me, and people to remember about me, that he always put, what was right, what he wants us to do first. So that would be my number one thing.
All right, this is my last question for you.
Uh-huh.
Where can guys go to learn more about the Fatherhood Foundation of Virginia and all the stuff that you guys got going on? How can they get plugged in with you?
Well, it's all you really have to do is go to Google and type in Fatherhood in Virginia. We're the first one that pops up. There's not too many statewide organizations that are doing this across the state. Actually, there's no statewide organizations doing this across state except for us. So if you literally typed in dads in Virginia, Fatherhood Foundation is going to pop up. If you typed in Fatherhood Virginia, it's going to pop up. But if you really want to be really simple about it, it's vadad.org, virginiadad.org. If you typed in Virginia Dad, it's going to pop up. So it's that simple. Please feel free. I'm an open book. If you have something across the state, or if you're watching this and you want to learn more about how you can get involved, we'll train you, we'll pay you, we'll get you involved. We know we can't be everywhere. So if we can train people to be facilitators, we will do that. So go to vadad.org to learn more.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining the Noble Pursuit podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to this episode. You can find out more about us by going to our website, noblepursuit.org, or by following us on Instagram at noblepursuitmen. You can find out more information about today's guest by looking in the description below.